Corman, a senior sales manager here at SpaceX. It's great to have you with us in Hawthorne, Paul.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. And honestly, I am excited to help share this story of our 4 dear friends leaving the planet today.
Right now, we are sitting just in front of SpaceX Mission Control with teams making the final preparations for our 3rd human spaceflight launch of 2025, just over 5 years since our historic NASA Demo 2 launch. Today, we've got guests from around the world joining us live, along with hands-on demonstrations of some of the payloads aboard the flight, and the very special announcement of our 5th and final Dragon to join the fleet. So with all of that ahead, let's dive right in.
Yes, let's do it. So depending on your perspective, this mission has been weeks in the making. There have been a series of efforts, including weather and procedures both on and off the planet that have needed to align. And today, those things are aligning. But more broadly speaking, this moment has also been months and for some years in the making. And there is a lot of goodness in store on this mission for the AX4 crew, which includes members from India, Poland, and Hungary. This morning's flight is each of those nations' first mission to the space station. And after more than 40 years, this is each country's 2nd government-sponsored human spaceflight ever. This historic mission underscores how Axiom Space is redefining the pathway to low Earth orbit and elevating national space programs globally. And while all Axiom missions have supported science and research aboard the space station, AX4 will feature the most research and science-related activities conducted on an Axiom space mission to date, featuring around 60 studies representing 31 countries.
Today's mission also marks SpaceX's 18th human spaceflight launch overall. For more than a decade, Falcon 9 has supported 47 missions to the International Space Station with our Dragon spacecraft, starting with our first cargo resupply mission in 2012. And since 2022, SpaceX has supported the next generation of commercial space exploration with 6 private astronaut missions, including 3 private astronaut missions to the space station in support of Axiom Space. We also want to take a moment to congratulate the SpaceX team for reaching 500 completed Falcon missions earlier this month. Over the last 17 years, these missions have restored human spaceflight to the United States, built the Starlink low Earth orbit constellation to provide low latency, high bandwidth communications from orbit for the first time, and with recovery and reuse have radically changed spaceflight.
That is incredible to think about. From just say Demo 2 to today on the human spaceflight side alone, that is an incredible accomplishment.
It's a great time to be in commercial spaceflight. It really is.
Agreed. And we're going to add to that chapter, to that story today. But needless to say, we're very excited for today's send-off. Right now, the Axiom Space crew and SpaceX teams are going through their final checkouts in preparation for liftoff, and we'll be listening in as the comms chatter picks up in the lead up to launch.
Speaking of the lead up to launch, let's check in with the status on the pad with SpaceX's very own John I. John?
Thanks, Ronnie. And as Paul said, let's do it. Good morning. I'm John Innsbrucker, the Falcon Principal Integration Engineer at SpaceX. Now, you can follow along the countdown to liftoff with us today at the top or the bottom of your screen. Now, we're currently just inside T-minus 2 hours. Our teams have been watching the weather today along both the ascent and the recovery corridors. And the good news is that the weather is looking excellent for the on-time launch coming up early this morning out of Kennedy Space Center. We're currently tracking roughly about a 10% probability of violation around the launch pad and about 5% as we head into space along contingency locations along the eastern seaboard in the Atlantic Ocean. We'll keep you posted on the weather throughout the countdown, but I think this morning there's not going to be a whole lot to talk about. Now to pad 39A, as you can see on your monitors, Falcon 9 stands tall. We're powered up in preparation for launch. Engine checkouts were performed overnight. Pressurization of the Falcon gas storage tanks was completed earlier today around T-minus 6.5 hours. And when we went live with the webcast, Falcon is just beginning its final checks for launch, and that's including a communication check with the crew. Now, as you saw a minute ago, there they are now. The crew's inside Dragon. We're just about to close the side hatch, and then we will go into the side hatch leak checks. A little bit later on this morning, an hour and 10 minutes from now, at T-minus 45 minutes, the launch director will pull the team for propellant load, and if we're go, propellant loading begins at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as with all of our launches to the International Space Station, next opportunity will be tomorrow at 2:09 a.m. Eastern. Now, I'll be keeping you updated this morning from the status desk in Hawthorne. With that, Ronnie and Paul, back to you.
Thanks, John. We'd love to give you viewers a moment just to get to know our crew. And so I want to start with Peggy. Today's mission commander is Peggy Whitson of the United States. And we actually don't have enough time to cover her entire resume, which is incredible to say the least. But to give you just a few highlights, Peggy earned degrees in biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station. She spent over 675 total days in space, of which she's about to add a few more, and during which she logged 60 hours across 10 spacewalks. She's a two-time commander for Axiom Space, having previously served aboard AX-2, and she was just inducted as a member of the 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame class. So congratulations, Peggy.
Next is mission pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of India, whose call sign as a test pilot is Shooks. Representing the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, Shooks is an astronaut designate of India's inaugural human spaceflight effort, Gangayaan, featuring an Indian-built rocket and spacecraft. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force Fighter Wing in 2006. He achieved the rank of Group Captain in 2024 and has over 2,000 hours of flight experience aboard aircraft including the Sukhoi 30 MKI, MiG-29, Jaguar, Hawk, and Antonov An-32.
Our third crew member is Mission Specialist Sławomir Uznanski-Wiśniewski of Poland. He is representing the European Space Agency as a project astronaut coming from the reserve class of 2022, much like Marcus Want, who served as a mission specialist on AX-3 in January of 2024. A scientist by trade, Sławomir has earned his Master's of Science with honors from Łódź University of Technology in 2008. Additionally, he earned a Master of Science from Université de Nantes in France, as well as a graduate engineering diploma from Polytech Nantes in the same year. He also spent 2 years as the engineer in charge of the world-famous Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, beginning in 2018.
And rounding out our crew is mission specialist Tibor Kapu of Hungary, who represents the Hungarian to Orbit Astronaut Program, or HUNOR. The program aims to send Hungarian astronauts to the International Space Station for scientific research and technological development, as well as to inspire young people. He graduated from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, earning a degree in mechanical engineering, followed by a master's degree specializing in polymer technology. In 2023, Tibor emerged as one of 4 Hungarians selected from a pool of 247 candidates for the HUNOR astronaut program. He has invested a notable amount of time in his career focused on space radiation protection while awaiting his acceptance to HUNOR.
From the very beginning, Commander Whitson has set out to bring this group together to operate as a team. And they come from different cultures, each tasked with their own mission and research priorities. But in this moment, they are one unit, and they have become friends who trust and respect each other immensely. So together, they are the crew of AX-4, Axiom Space's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Today's flight represents the return to spaceflight for these 3 nations, but it also highlights the growing opportunities for many nations and entities around the world to conduct meaningful work in low Earth orbit. And right now, as Peggy, Shooks, Sławomir, and Tibor sit right there inside Dragon, there are colleagues, fans, and space enthusiasts the world over gathering to witness and cheer them on. We are just starting to get some visuals from different watch parties around the world, and so naturally, we're eager to show these to you. It's early in the morning for some, later in the day for others, and here we are seeing students and teachers at the Nar Baram Hansre English School in Jamshedpur, India, gathering together to watch Shubhanshu lift off. Well, greetings and namaste, students.
And now we're checking in on Poland. The launch party there is taking place inside the Copernicus Science Center in Warsaw. We're waiting for a viewer's perspective because the whole webcast is displayed on the planetarium's dome there. The event is organized by the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, the Polish Space Agency, and the European Space Agency, so hopefully we'll get a chance to check in with them soon.
Yes, we'll check in with them again, I'm sure. As folks continue to gather at these watch parties, as well as others across each country, we look forward to sharing their excitement live again and again as we get closer to launch.
Speaking of the excitement as we get closer to launch, I'd like to check in with John I again and get some updates from the launch pad. John?
Well, right now, things are continuing to press on. T-minus 1 hour, 50 minutes. We have closed the side hatch, and we are getting ready to start the leak check. Now, we talked about the launch this morning.
For the side hatch, the reinspection noted a fiber
right now we're
as
listening
a
to
possible
communications
cause
on
of
the back channels.
issue we saw earlier. So we have obviously reclosed the side hatch, and we're stepping into
Okay,
the
right
side
now,
hatch leak
Dragon,
check
we
repeat.
talked about an instantaneous
As
window. We need an efficient orbit to get to the space
repeat
station.
Our health check for launch escape system, so you can expect momentary flight computer state change again, followed by transition back to pad hatch closed. How copy?
In your reinspection, you found a fiber, and we are looking forward to another flight computer transition like we had before as you repeat the leak check.
Yep, that's a good readback.
Yeah, we're listening to Peggy Whitson talking to the ground team at SpaceX. They're getting ready to start the leak check. When they were getting ready to close the hatch, they found a fiber across one of the seals. They cleaned that up. So we're going to press into the leak check now. Fingers crossed that everything goes well. From time to time, we will be hearing the crew talking to the ground or vice versa, so we may stop our commentary right in the middle of everything if we hear something coming up. But I started talking about the instantaneous window, and that's because we need an efficient orbit to get to the space station. And the most efficient way to do that is to launch when the space station's orbit plane is passing over pad 39A. But it also means that you have to launch on a precise second this morning, and that's what we call the instantaneous window. Now, at pad 39A, the Earth is rotating at 900 miles an hour to the east. So if we were to delay launch by 15 minutes, the Earth's rotation alone would take us over 200 miles past the space station's orbit. And the errors you get launching too soon or too late, they're the ones that cost you the most propellant to try to make up. Now, while the orbit that the space station is flying in is going to be directly overhead at liftoff, the actual station may be several thousand miles away in its orbit. But that's a lot easier to fix. As Dragon gets into orbit, its speed will be a few hundred miles per hour different than the space station. And so in several hours, we can make up a couple thousand miles without a problem. So overall, it's kind of like catching up to your friends on a highway. If you're on the same highway, you can speed up or slow down to catch up with the other automobile. It just takes you some time. But if you end up on parallel highways separated by 15 minutes, you're going to have a hard time catching up to your friends. And that concludes today's segment of My Friend, Orbital Mechanics. With that, back to you, Ronnie and Paul.
Awesome. Thanks, John. After a successful liftoff and orbital insertion, the AX-4 crew are set to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern. They'll spend approximately 14 days aboard the orbiting laboratory, bringing the total occupancy count up to 11.
And upon entering the International Space Station, the AX-4 crew will be greeted by the current expedition crew members with a welcome ceremony, which we look forward to showing. This will be followed by a handful of onboarding exercises with the station commander, but then each crew member will immediately jump into their scheduled mission timeline. For the next 14 days, every minute of their workday will be scheduled with public engagements, science, research tasks, and a variety of activities that are unique to microgravity. To prepare for this endeavor, this crew has spent the last 10 months working with instructors and subject matter experts to learn every system they will be interfacing with on station. They have studied and practiced every experiment, reviewed and rehearsed every event, all to maximize their time in space. Collectively, this crew is undertaking the largest quantity of scientific research efforts of any Axiom space mission to date, with over 60 research activities on their timeline, representing 31 different countries. Missions like AX-4 continue to expand what is possible, setting the stage for even greater opportunities to come.
At the conclusion of their time on the station, the crew will participate in a closing farewell ceremony and begin their preparations for the journey back to Earth. Currently, that flight is targeting just about 2 weeks from today for both return and splashdown.
And so while the teams are progressing towards launch there on the launch pad, why don't we look back at what some of those efforts have been to get them to this point? For context, this crew has been living in an isolated quarantine bubble for the last 4 weeks, having reported to quarantine on May 25th. In that time, they have shifted their sleep regimens, to adjust their circadian rhythm to match those on board the International Space Station. And over the last few days, they have finessed that further to be ready for this moment. So earlier this evening, the Axiom Space Ground Operations team drove the AX-4 crew to Kennedy Space Center, where they shared a brief moment with loved ones before being officially handed over to SpaceX for launch. This handover event has taken on many forms over the years, but there is always something special about creating a moment, even for just a few minutes, in the midst of all of the operational choreography that we're doing, to pause and just share a moment human to human. And so here you are seeing the crew in front of their loved ones before getting in board the Teslas that took them out to the Falcon Support Building.
These are fantastic photos taken from earlier today. After the T-4 hour briefing, SpaceX team helped the crew suit up. There they are exiting the Falcon Support Building, which is just about a half-mile away from the launch pad. Then, of course, they get into the Tesla Caravan together to go to Launch Complex 39A. Can see them moving into the Teslas there. We do, of course, divide the crew into two sets. So you're seeing some of our SpaceX support ninjas in the background there. Very excited crew on their way over to 39A. Once they reached the base of the tower, they do stop to take in Falcon 9 and Dragon, which is always my favorite shot, is getting to see this crew see their spacecraft for the first time in their suit on the lead up to launch. Here they are walking across the crew access arm before ingressing or entering. Here you are. You can see we've got our SpaceX team is checking the boarding passes of our crew before they get on board today.
Peggy's is gold, as I see.
You'll notice that Peggy's indicates that she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. Then, of course, our crew has the opportunity to sign the wall in the White Room, as all the astronauts who have launched from that tower have before them. And then one by one, they ingress or enter the spacecraft. Got some great views here of them hugging this team goodbye. And as you mentioned earlier, Paul, they've been working together with these teams here for the last 10 months preparing for today.
You're right. So much of that is not just the work that they're going to do on station, but a lot of that is also just this moment, rehearsing with their closeout crew to prepare for getting into Dragon, and all of these steps have been rehearsed time and time again and practiced. Seeing them walk out, seeing the smiles on their faces right now is just a defining characteristic of this crew. They have really bonded over these last 10 months and really taken every challenge in stride, and you could just see it in their faces today. All of that work is paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we've got video that was recorded earlier of us putting those safety harnesses onto our crew. You can think of them kind of like a seatbelt, but they're a little bit more high-tech than that. And then after that, we do attach umbilicals to the capsule, which provide both breathing air and comms to Dragon. Then we step into suit leak checks and comms checks, which were completed earlier today, before rotating the seats into a reclined position for launch. We do that to make sure that the G-forces are going right through the chests of our astronauts to keep them as comfortable as possible on their roller coaster ride to space. Then our closeout team closes and seals the hatch and performs a leak check, which John gave us an update on a little bit earlier. The closeout team has since departed the pad, and final weather checks are coming up at this point, which is needed before that final go or no-go for launch is given. The crew, of course, now with that great shot of them on board your screen, is waiting to get the green light to stow the crew arm for launch and arm the launch escape system. Once our launch director gives that go-ahead, we should get a great view of the access arm moving away from the spacecraft. That's also going to be one of our last major visual milestones that we'll see before liftoff that takes about 2 minutes to complete. From there, we'll hear the call out that Falcon 9 propellant loading is ready to begin, and we will be in that final countdown for launch. Great images here on your screen. Of course, we have Dragon on the left-hand side and live views from inside of our capsule with all of those events that led up to getting our 4 AX-4 crew members seated and ready for liftoff.
Dragon SpaceX, good news. Our second side hatch leak check was successful.
And great news there from Mission Control.
We are happy to hear that. Great. Green carry.
So as John mentioned earlier, we did do a second leak check today to make sure that that side hatch was closed properly. And with that confirmation from Mission Control and acknowledgement by the crew, we are moving forward with today's launch.
Obviously, Peggy has been through this once before successfully, and it is a first time for the other 3 crew members. But just seeing each of them all together as a team there inside Dragon is a sight that, well, it's just rewarding to see. We've shared a bit about our crew members on this AX4 mission, but to properly introduce them and the space agencies they represent, we're going to send you now out to Axiom Space's Sonia Gavan-Carmaquet, who's joining us from the press site at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Sonia, you're only 3 miles from the launch pad. How is the energy out there?
The energy is amazing. The weather is fantastic. It's a little chilly in this room, but we're just hot for this mission. So we're excited to tell you more about the crew, their missions, and what they're going to accomplish on the ISS. This is a special moment for India, Poland, and Hungary. Let's turn our attention now to each space agency represented on board the AX4 mission, beginning with the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. Their crew member, Shubhanshu Shukla, or Shooks, is our mission pilot. ISRO has been involved in space exploration for over 50 years, but only recently has put a clear emphasis on human exploration. Shooks is making that goal a reality today.
From the Indian Space Research Organization, AX4 pilot Shubhanshu Shukla.
Namaste. I'm Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla.
A fighter pilot for 15 years, he was selected as one of 4 Indian astronauts in 2020.
Captain Shukla, are you ready for the ride? Will you do some yoga in space like your idol Rakesh Sharma did in 1984?
The first Indian astronaut, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, traveled to space in 1984. I grew up reading about him in textbooks and listening to his stories from space. I was deeply, deeply impressed by him. This journey that I'm on, it has been a long one for me. And it started out somewhere. I didn't know that this is the path it is going to finally take. I would say that I've been extremely fortunate and extremely lucky to have gotten the opportunities to first fly all my life, which was a dream job for me, and then have the opportunity to apply to astronaut corps, and now consequently be here. The way this worked out for me was that probably a week before we arrived at Axiom was the time I came to know that I will be going. I was extremely excited to be here. I was very, very happy because this was a possibility for me to actually fly to space. You don't know how to respond to such things.
Shooks his wisdom. The knowledge that he possesses, he could be 130 years old.
For me, having him as my pilot in the Dragon capsule is great. He already has that operational savvy. You know, he's just wicked smart when it comes to spacecraft technologies.
He is very focused, and he will basically go 1, 2, 3, 4 in a record time. I don't even know how he gets there so fast.
The team that I'm flying with on this mission, it is fantastic. I do feel that, I have exceptional crewmates. I will have these crew members for this one flight, but post this mission, these are going to be my friends for life.
It has been an amazing journey. These are moments that really tell you that you are getting to be a part of something that is much larger than yourself. I can only say how extremely fortunate I am to be a part of this.
It is my sincere endeavor through my mission to inspire an entire generation back home in the country. I want to use this opportunity to ignite curiosity among kids. Even if this story, my story, is able to change one life, it would be a huge success for me. I'm Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, and I am the mission pilot for Axiom 4 mission.
I'm joined now by Prasanth Balakrishnan Nair, a fellow Gaganyaan astronaut from ISRO. Papa has trained alongside Shooks for the past 10 months as the backup mission pilot. Papa, thanks for being here today, although I can't imagine where else you'd want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Sonia, for having me.
Well, let's talk about Shooks a little bit. When was the first time you met, and what was that meeting like, and what was your impression of him?
Oh, he's a fantastic guy. So we met a few years back. We are both fighter pilots, right, and we are test pilots. So when we got selected for our own Gaganyaan program, that's when we met. And very few people know this. I am 9 years older to him.
Oh, really?
But I look younger, right?
You do.
Yeah. See, I'm not hair still hasn't come out. Yeah, but that's when we met. And Shooks has been a fantastic guy. In the last 10 months when we have been training here, it has been such a satisfying thing for me to be his wingman, okay, as a fighter pilot lingo.
Right.
And he's got that drive and that focus in him on what he wants in life. Once he decides, like, for example, to be the first Indian to go to the International Space Station,
right.
He puts that over there, focuses on it, puts his entire resources and his mind into it, removes all other obstacles, and he's there right now.
Well,
and that's what he is.
That's amazing and shows why he's in that pilot seat.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 10 months of training that you all went through. What was a point that stuck out to you? What was the overall experience like?
The overall experience was, I didn't know whether it was work. It was more like, coming to one big picnic, and imagine you're doing space training.
Yeah.
And in that, when you can actually make it really cool, at the same time professional, that has been our experience. It's been really marvelous, training with Axiom, NASA, SpaceX, with the other countries, and Peggy. It's been fantastic.
A legend. You get to train with a legend. Now, I have seen you do some of the training, but the food training, I think maybe was one of your favorites?
Yeah, well, you can't, the army marches on its stomach, right? Yeah, and the astronauts also fly to space on our stomach only, yeah. The food was the fantastic part, and we went for this NOLS training, National Outdoor Leadership School in
Where
Baja.
you really got to bond as a team.
It was fantastic, because we realized it's in such situations when we are kayaking and the weather was down and when the resources are low and the only thing we have to back on is each other. It was fantastic to know each other really threadbare. And it was beautiful, because these are those moments when you train as a team that we come to know not just the strong points, but the limitations.
Right.
Because when going to space or doing such kind of activity, the most important thing is to know your teammates' weak points so that you can be there to support him.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, Papa, for being here. Good luck to you. Good luck to India. Good luck to the entire ISRO agency. We're here now, finally. Good luck.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me. And I want to, on behalf of Axiom and all, give a big shout out to my Prime Minister, my Chairman, my wife Lena, and my daughter Nandini, and my parents, and everyone back home. Thank you, everyone, and all my countrymen.
Indeed.
Jai Hind.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Well, let's meet our next crew member. We'll take a closer look at Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski and the return to spaceflight for the nation of Poland. Sław is continuing and growing the partnership between Axiom Space and ESA. His scientific background and energetic spirit make him an incredible asset and truly engaging addition to this diverse crew.
I think both mountains and sailing, my head gets clear. I'm focused on how to choose my path.
How are you?
Good, very good.
Congratulations.
Second peak, 6,000 meters.
How does it feel?
Good, perfect.
How I see the world is out there for us to enjoy it. When we live, we try to understand, and actually this is a lifelong learning.
Representing Poland, ESA project astronaut Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski.
Sławosz Uznański-Wisniewski. His name is a mouthful, so we quickly gave him the call sign Słav.
He is an engineer from CERN. He is a project astronaut. He is a mountaineer. He is a sailor. And he is so good looking after that.
Słav is surprised. He is a kind of guy whose country should be proud of.
We are the European Organization for Research, known as CERN.
What CERN does, CERN studies what the world is made of, colliding these particles and seeing what happens after and what are the smallest building blocks of nature. In my work as an engineer, I try to understand what happens around, how to build better systems, how to solve certain problems, and that's, I think, the way how I look at the world. In Europe, we had 5 selections for astronauts since the beginning of the European Space Agency. I followed some of the astronauts, for example, Luca Parmitano, when he was changing the cooling system of the AMS detector, the CERN design. I had no idea if it was going to happen during my life or not. I was a scientist, but I was always waiting for this possibility. And the opportunity came up in 2021 to apply, and then Poland chose to pursue a mission in 2023. that was that moment where the whole journey of me being an astronaut started.
After 50 years since General Mirosław Hermaszewski's mission, the second Pole in space will be Sławosz Uznański.
This mission to the International Space Station is demonstrating the capabilities, but it's also demonstrating the ambition that Poland wants to contribute at the global scale. Today, I represent Poland, but also I represent a generation of Polish people to be able to contribute to technology and science at the global level. Space is for everyone. I am Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, ESA project astronaut from Poland.
I'm joined now by Frank Duin, ESA, ISS, and Terra Nove Program Manager. Thank you so much for being here. You've launched from Baikonur. How's it feel to be just yards from the clock here at Kennedy?
It feels great, of course, to be back here. We have, of course, launched already a lot of ESA astronauts here on SpaceX Crew Dragon missions, and so it's always great to be back.
Especially on a launch day, right?
Especially on a launch date, yes, certainly.
And this is your ESA's second time launching a project astronaut with Axiom Space. It's a new concept. What kind of lessons learned did you get from AX-3 the first time a project astronaut flew on an AX mission?
Well, the lessons learned that we had, of course, is that these missions can be extremely successful for ESA and for our member states. We can do a lot of science on those missions, technology development. For example, during the mission here with Sławosz, we will have 13 Polish experiments that will be flying. It's not only about the science, it's also building industrial capability in our member states, gaining support for our exploration program. So these missions can be highly successful for ESA and for the member states that decides to implement them.
And does it also grow the pool of astronauts in a unique way? What are you finding as the pool is growing?
Well, the pool is growing a little bit, of course. The project astronauts, after their mission, they go back to their normal job. But of course, they remain astronauts. They remain advocacies for space, for education, for STEM. This is also a big part of this mission, inspiration. That we want to bring. If we want to fight climate change, for example, in the future, we need more and more engineers, we need more scientists, and this is needed for our society. So inspiration is also a very important part of this mission.
So tell us a little bit about Sławosz. Why was he chosen? Why was he chosen for this mission? What do you think he's going to bring to the table during the mission and after?
Well, Sławosz, in the first place, of course, is an excellent scientist. He has worked a lot in CERN as an engineer and a scientist, so he brings that aspect, of course, with him. He has a great personality. If you see pictures of Sławosz, he's always smiling. So that is also something that he can bring to a crew, but also to the European Astronaut Corps. And then again, in Poland, he's really a hero. He's really a star. And that's really great for the young kids that can look up to him and that can also invest their careers in science and in technology.
So you think it's going to make a huge impact in Poland. What do you think it's going to do for exploration for the young people of the nation of Poland?
Well, I think it's good for exploration and also for ESA, by the way, because through the mission of Sławosz, Poland is also engaging more in exploration, engaging more in the European Space Agency, bringing extra funds to us, so that's great. And again, we will build up industrial capability in Poland, which we all also need. If we want to go to a low Earth orbit economy, for example, we will have to build up more actors, more players that can work and that can contribute to this economy. And therefore, as well, this is a great endeavor. And of course, we will need young people in the future to do this. And that's why Sławosz and this mission will be a great success, I believe.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you for being here. Good luck to ESA. Congratulations to ESA and the country of Poland. And I can't wait for this wonderful evening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, let's move on to our next crew member. It's Tibor Kapu. It's an exciting time for his country and his mission, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. This Central European nation is among those who have more recently turned their attention to spaceflight, adopting a formal strategy to get a Hungarian into space for the first time since 1980. This is a return to space that's been 45 years in the making. This is Hunor astronaut Tibor Kapu.
When I was watching Olympics with my mom, I remember that anyone who had a Hungarian flag on, on a jersey or on them, we were just cheering for them, like they were our own family members. these are the guys who we are all proud of. Spaceflight, in my eyes, is something similar.
Tibor, you know, what I really admire about Tibor, he's an engineer also, but he has the enthusiasm that bonds our crew together.
He is life. I describe him like that. He walks into a place, he walks into a room, and everything livens up.
He's funny. He's the person that brings lightness to the team. He's an engineer like myself, so we have this in common, this connection.
In addition to engineering skills, Tibor is a huge space buff. And if you are not motivated about spaceflight before you meet him, you will be a fan afterwards.
It is actually coming from childhood. I remember, assembling so many sets of Legos. I did, Star Wars. I did all kinds of planes. I was looking for my place for a really long time. But for a long time, actually, I didn't even know what to do. I remember this really cool moment with my dad. He explained to me what does a mechanical engineer do, and that's when we discussed that, okay, I will be a mechanical engineer. It was great, I loved it, but I knew that I could do much more. I knew that I'm destined to achieve greater things. I was a rocket enthusiast for such a long time, but I didn't have a chance to work in that field. The selection process for Hunar, it was announced in 2021. I was extremely enthusiastic. It wasn't a question if I'm taking that opportunity or not. We did 14 months of rigorous selection process, physical and psychological and cognitive stuff. The whole thing took like 2.5 years. It's much harder than I thought, actually. May 26th was the anniversary of Bertalan Farkas flying to space. He was the first Hungarian astronaut. On that day and that night, I was selected. And I was actually quite proud of myself that I could prove to myself that I am capable of focusing for months and years in order to stand here. So people have been calling me their sons since the selection, especially my hometown. I feel their love, I feel their energy, I feel that they are proud of me. I want to be special for my country. And if it will spark or ignite anything in them, then I think we are doing our job quite well. My name is Tibor Kapu, and I'm mission specialist for AX4.
I'm joined now by Gyula Szirinyi, a fellow Hungarian astronaut who has been selected alongside Tibor in Hunar's first class of astronauts. Thank you so much for being here, Gyula. You and Tibor were selected around the same time. Tell us what that moment was like.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here. Well, it's a really interesting story because we had a really long selection process, and after the selection, we had 14 months of basic training in Hungary. And even in these 14 months, we've been to the US and we've met Axiom people. We've been to Axiom, and they also were part of our selection. And after that, our selection happened from the four of us, two of us were selected to do the mission-specific training we are here right now and doing right now, preparing for this mission actually. So this was an amazing journey for us.
So the Hunar program only kicked off in 2021. That's a really fast trip to this moment that we're at now. Tell us what that was like. Do you think that this is right on track? Are you excited for the progress that you're seeing?
Well, we had to do it really fast because we were not planning for Axiom 4 specifically. We were planning to do a mission. And but Axiom 4 happened, and so we had to
jump
expedite.
on it.
And it was really, really intense for us. But the basic training were finished, and we could continue our training. But we didn't have a lot of time between selection and the Axiom 4 training. We had around just 1 month of period when we were selected and waiting for a mission.
And what stands out to you from that training, from the AX4 training? What stands out? Something that was really bonding, something that surprised you?
From the bonding perspective, if you ask for that, I would say that our nose training were amazing, which was when we were at Mexico with the
That's what
crew.
Papa said, that he loved being
He did say that.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that was amazing but it's a great analogy of being on the space station. You know, you are not a very well comfortable position. with the crew. You have to solve problems. It's really like being on the space station, and so I really enjoyed that part. But we've done so many things. It was an amazing journey.
Tibor has a very intense mission when he's on the ISS. Lots of things to do. What's he going to bring to the table when he's on the ISS?
So, from Hungary, all of the experiments we are going up there is Hungarian experiments, and it's like a really good opportunity for Hungarian researchers to show and to get their experiments conducted on the ISS in space. And it's like he's going to be doing radiation experiments. He's going to be growing plants in space.
So many things.
He's got amazing
so many things, but bringing along the entire country of Hungary with him into space with all of these activities. Thank you so much for being here, giving us a little peek into your training up until this moment. Congratulations to you, to your entire country.
Thank you so much.
And now it's time for our commander. Let's introduce you to Peggy Whitson. You may be well aware of Peggy's incredible resume. She brings nearly 30 years of experience as an astronaut and decades more as a leader in technical and scientific fields. A second-time commander for the Axiom missions and the latest addition to the Astronaut Hall of Fame. This is the one and only Peggy Whitson.
How does a girl from Beaconsfield, Iowa, with a population of less than 20, become the commander of the International Space Station?
I think that one of the biggest lessons I learned growing up on a farm had to be determination, diligence to get the job done. My parents are the hardest working people I knew. They taught me that work ethic and never to quit.
Peggy Whitson became the first female commander of the International Space Station.
In her career, Whitson spent 675 days in space. She also flew 3 long-duration space flights and served as chief of the astronaut office and commander of the International Space Station.
AX-4 will be her 5th mission to the International Space Station and 2nd time commanding a commercial astronaut mission.
Peggy Whitson is a known name. She has accomplishments that I can only dream of.
Peggy is one of the most capable leaders that I had the chance to work with, ever.
She passes knowledge to us. She knows where we feel strong, where we feel maybe a bit weaker, and she can support us in that.
Being a great leader for her is just natural.
When I first met the crew, I was very excited by the fact that they could all laugh at themselves. I think that's a really important characteristic, to be able to have a sense of humor about yourself, not to take yourself so seriously. From there, you can do a lot of work. I actually tell the crew a lot about what I think they're going to experience. I think it helps them prepare. But I'm talking about how they're going to feel, how their body's going to react to it. Everybody's going to be souped up to do, 150% of the work. And so I want them to have an accurate sense of as they adapt to being in space. My first flight was in 2002. Obviously, as a rookie flyer, I worried a lot about getting everything right. I didn't want to be the one that made mistakes. To me, it's important to be able to share that and relieve some of the stress off of them and try and focus their worry, because I know they are worried as well, on the right things. I've got 3 different countries being represented, and we prioritize each of their countries' objectives so that everyone's needs are being met. And this is a goal of Axiom, and that is to open up space and opportunities to more and more countries. I really consider it almost a dream that we have already accomplished 3 private astronaut missions in 3 years. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. I love working with these young engineers with new ideas. It's a lot of fun. I'm Peggy Whitson, commander of AX-4.
I'm joined now by Axiom Space's Chief Strategy Officer, Matt Ondler. Matt, thanks for being here. Where else would you be, though?
No, thanks for having me. This is a fantastic day. Going to be a fantastic launch tonight.
So let's talk about Peggy Whitson. Tough question. Can you describe her in 4 words?
Sure, you hit me with a hard question right off the bat. I'm going to go with gracious space professional leader.
It's pretty good. That's pretty excellent. When Peggy's not preparing to go to space or recovering from coming back from space, what is she doing in the office day to day?
Yeah, she's actually very helpful. Her and our other astronauts for Axiom are really helpful in helping us design our space station. And actually, she gets right back to it. After her last mission, it was only about a week, and I found her in the lab helping engineers. We were designing the payload rack, and those sort of insights from someone who's actually been there and had worked in microgravity are really, really important and valuable for our engineers.
And I know just walking around the office, you feel like, oh, it's Peggy Whitson. And then she's working alongside you and she's giving you great advice, showing you how to be a leader in every single moment. So it's really wonderful to have her, but also watch her on a mission on the ISS. What excites you about commercial space travel?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that excite me about commercial space, but one of the things that I think is going to be so amazing and really change the world is the things that we're going to be able to make in space that you can't otherwise make. You know, we're flying over 60 experiments on this flight. A few of those are repeat, where we've flown this particular team on all 4 of our missions, and by leveraging microgravity and how it affects cancer tumor growth and stem cell growth, they're discovering novel treatments for cancer. And I think those sort of things are just one of many, many examples that are going to occur once we have a commercial space station up there.
So this is our 4th mission. Wonderful to see all the growth from 1, 2, 3, and now 4. What are the opportunities for international partners, for foreign nations?
Yeah, I really think that we are becoming the world's space agency and really helping lots of countries emerge in space. This particular mission is a great example where all 3 of these countries have flown 1 astronaut before, but it was all 40 years ago. So almost 2 generations for these countries. And so it's very, very impactful and very, very humbling to be able to help these countries. You know, one of the things that I Googled this morning was there are 350 million children in India under age 15. So there's more children in India under age 15 than there are people in the United States. Wow. I hope all 350 million of those watch the launch and are inspired by it and want to get into space and exploration and engineering and math.
I know that there are watch parties happening right now all around the world, so those children hear you and they will be inspired by this mission. I'm so excited to see what comes out of it and what happens in the future.
Awesome, me too.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you back in Houston in a couple of days.
All right, thank you.
Well, this has been an exciting time to learn about all of our crew members. We're going to send it back to Ronnie at Hawthorne.
Thanks so much, Sonia. Now we get to talk about one of my favorite parts of human spaceflight, which is the zero-G indicator. To prepare for the mission, the crew trained at the National Outdoor Leadership School, or NOLS, which takes the crew on a wilderness expedition to help build camaraderie, navigate unpredictable circumstances, and operate in a remote environment. Every crew develops a unique bond in the midst of shared challenges, and as they discovered at NOLS, this one is no different.
And as you heard from Papa and Jula, Knowles stood out amongst all of their training. They faced days of harsh winds and challenging weather conditions that limited the range of their expedition at Knowles. But afterwards, their instructor commented how extraordinarily this crew collectively exuded a sense of joy throughout. In spite of whatever came at them, they still maintained this attitude, overcoming each challenge with a smile and a willingness to lift each other up. So to celebrate their unique bond, the crew chose a baby swan as their zero-G indicator, which they've named Joy. And as luck would have it, we have our very own Joy, the baby swan, to serve as our microgravity indicator. And yeah, as luck has it, we have a full dose of gravity.
Bummer for us.
So, but we should keep it here just in case, safe and sound. In case any of that changes, we'll have our own gravity indicator. Let us know.
Speaking of training, as you might imagine, astronaut preparation can be extensive. From training that is specific to each crew member's role to learning SpaceX protocols, space station systems, and preparing for the science and outreach activities they'll be conducting in space, private astronaut training is rigorous. In addition to the work in the field like they did through Knowles, the AX-4 crew spent about 35 days training inside Dragon. To prepare them for flight, our teams at SpaceX spent the last several months teaching the crew about orbital mechanics and how to live in Dragon. While this was, of course, more of a review for Peggy Whitson, for the rest of the crew, this will be their first time flying to space. The training program includes nearly 100 different lessons covering all aspects of flight. The crew spent time inside our Dragon training spacecraft to run simulations of ascent, space station rendezvous, and reentry. They also spent time at the launch pad in our suit-up room and working through emergency procedures that would be necessary in the unlikely event of a pad abort.
And in addition to the critical training from SpaceX associated with those dynamic phases of ascent and return, Axiom Space facilitated a host of training efforts over the last 10 months to ensure the Axiom 4 crew and all those who support them are ready for their mission on station. Kicking off efforts at Axiom Space headquarters in August of 2024, this crew immediately began to familiarize themselves with the range of teams and systems and operations they would need to become proficient with in order to succeed. So from selecting the food they would eat and learning how to prepare it with the food warming and hydration systems on orbit, to understanding the tools and systems available to them throughout the station, learning every seemingly small detail is critical to ensure mission success. While in Building 9 at Johnson Space Center, the crews learned and rehearsed routine operations, medical procedures, emergency situations, and media outreach engagements. All of these lessons built up to full-scale simulations that were run in coordination with ground teams at Johnson and around the world.
And as the name of the International Space Station suggests, specific modules are owned and operated by different nations. The crew traveled to Japan to learn the systems of the Japanese experiment module, also known as Kibo. With hands-on training that culminated in a round of testing, the crew became certified to use Kibo for their flight. The crew then traveled to Germany to earn their certification for the systems in the European module, known as Columbus. As an ESA project astronaut, Sławomir had additional trainings at the European Astronaut Center.
And beyond the specific requirements of each space station module, the crew participated in a range of efforts that would not only bond them into a crew, but also ensure they were physically and mentally prepared for any scenario surrounding their space flight. This included, as we've mentioned, a week of training with the National Outdoor Leadership School, where the crew faced a week of kayaking against heavy winds, but it also featured a day in an altitude chamber to experience how their bodies react to different oxygen levels, and even a round in helicopter underwater escape training, among many others.
And all of that is necessary to set the stage for the work they will be doing on the International Space Station. We are now at T-minus 1 hour, 7 minutes, and 50 seconds from liftoff of the Axiom 4 mission. As the countdown continues, let's take a closer look at the vehicles that will be taking the AX-4 crew to the International Space Station today. At the very top is our Dragon spacecraft. This is where the crew is currently sitting and will spend their 28-hour flight to the orbiting lab. With the capacity to carry up to 7 passengers, Dragon has proven to be quite a versatile spacecraft.
SpaceX status update.
We're going to listen into this status
Go
update.
ahead to me. What's the update?
All right, Peggy, we are troubleshooting an issue with uploading the current wind conditions to the vehicle. This must be completed before launch escape system is armed so that the vehicle can correctly target offshore splashdown in the event of an escape. We're tracking several troubleshooting paths at this time and are working to resolve the issue, so I will follow up with you in 10 minutes on the status. How copy?
Copy. You're troubleshooting the ability to upload the wind conditions for the launch escape system, and you'll update us in 10. Thanks.
And just to make that super crystal clear, if we do not successfully upload this by the time we get to LES arm, we will be no-go for launch.
I was thinking you might be thinking that as well. Dragon copies.
So we heard some chatter there from Mission Control and acknowledged by the crew that we're troubleshooting that upload issue now. But of course, our teams will continue working diligently in the lead up to launch in hopes that we can preserve today's launch attempt. So with that, I want to step back in and talk a little bit more about the spacecraft that we are working on today. Dragon is a very versatile spacecraft. It can autonomously dock to the space station when outfitted with the docking adapter, as it is today for Axiom Mission 4. But Dragon can also be configured with hardware to support a spacewalk, which made its debut on the Polaris Dawn mission last year. And of course, in free flyer mode, the docking adapter can be swapped out for that iconic cupola, which is essentially a giant glass dome that allows for 360-degree views of space.
The crew travels in the pressurized section, which is the top portion of the spacecraft. This area allows for the transport of people and environmentally sensitive cargo. Dragon's trunk, which sits below the pressurized section, can carry unpressurized cargo when needed and remains attached to the Dragon until shortly before re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon has played a significant role in advancing our future in space by safely transporting crew and cargo to and from the space station. There are currently 4 Dragon spacecraft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station: Endeavour, Resilience, Endurance, and Freedom. And this mission will be adding 1 new Dragon to that list, whose name will be revealed later today by our commander, Peggy Whitson. Dragon and the AX-4 crew will be delivered to orbit today by Falcon 9, SpaceX's 2-stage rocket developed and manufactured right here in Hawthorne, California. Falcon 9 is the first orbital-class rocket capable of reflight. The booster, or first stage of the rocket, is the tallest part of the vehicle. Today's booster is flying for the 2nd time. Reusability is key to making spaceflight more routine and ultimately what will enable humans to become a multi-planetary species. A total of 48 boosters have flown multiple missions, with the record for a single booster now standing at 28 missions. After today's launch, the first stage will be returning to SpaceX's Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, which is just about 9 miles away from Launch Complex 39A.
Above the first stage and below Dragon is Falcon 9's 2nd stage, which will secure Dragon's entry into low Earth orbit before separating, leaving Dragon to continue its journey to the space station.
Beautiful wide shot of Falcon 9 on your screen there. We've got the crew access arms still in place leading up to the Dragon spacecraft. And Falcon 9 right there in the middle is SpaceX's workhorse vehicle, having completed 492 missions since its first flight in 2010, more than any other rocket flying today. And through missions like today's, Dragon is helping lay the groundwork for deep space exploration, rapidly expanding our knowledge of how humans will adapt, live, and work in space. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Dragon radically changed how humanity gets to space. After the space shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA astronauts primarily used the Russian Soyuz spacecraft to travel to and from the International Space Station. From 2011 to 2020, the Soyuz was the only human-capable launch vehicle available. In December 2010, Dragon became the first commercially built and operated spacecraft to be recovered successfully from orbit. This mission, known as COTS-1, was the first demonstration flight for NASA's Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS program. The purpose of COTS was to develop and demonstrate commercial sources for cargo resupply of the ISS. Fun fact, the Dragon that flew on that historic mission is currently hanging behind us in front of SpaceX Mission Control in Hawthorne. Just 10 years later, in May 2020, Demo 2 launched astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time in nearly a decade. Demo 2 was Dragon's first human spaceflight mission. The spacecraft, named Endeavour, carried NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken to the International Space Station in the first orbital human spaceflight launched from the United States since that final space shuttle mission in 2011, and it was the first ever operated by a commercial provider. Alongside the NASA missions, Dragon has also flown several private missions to orbit. In September 2021, on the Inspiration 4 mission, Dragon became the first private spacecraft to take an all-civilian crew to orbit. The following year, Dragon flew Axiom Mission 1, the first all-private astronaut mission to the ISS in collaboration with Axiom Space. The first of now 4 flights together with Axiom Space to take commercial crews from around the world to the International Space Station. Then in September of 2024, the Polaris Dawn mission delivered the first commercial spacewalk. And most recently in March, Dragon supported the From 2 and NASA Crew 10 missions. From that first crew mission in May 2020 all the way through today, Dragon has supported 17 human spaceflight missions and flown 66 crew members representing 17 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 52 missions, carrying over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space. In the history of human spaceflight, fewer than 700 people have ever been to orbit. At SpaceX, we want to help create a future where not just hundreds of people, but thousands and ultimately millions of people can travel off Earth to live and work in space and on other planets.
Each of those missions you just mentioned represent truly significant firsts that have helped shape this generation of human spaceflight. And at Axiom Space, we've had the opportunity to provide foundational firsts as well. Working with SpaceX and NASA on all 3 of our orbital spaceflight missions to date, to fully appreciate the progress being made together, it's worth noting that our 3 flights have helped provide greater access and set new precedents worldwide for private astronaut missions aboard the International Space Station, all within the last 4 years. And I'd love to take a quick look back at just a few of these with you now. On April 8th, 2022, just over 3 years ago, Axiom Mission 1 launched aboard Dragon Endeavour on a mission that would span 17 days on orbit, with 15 days of those on board the International Space Station. Led by Commander Michael Lopez Alegria, the crew facilitated 26 research payloads and participated in over 30 STEAM events. Beyond the onboard science efforts, this mission was a pivotal moment for the community at large, serving as a proof of concept for how private operations could be conducted on the orbiting lab in conjunction with the expedition crews living aboard the International Space Station. This was the next step in human spaceflight collaboration. So this was followed up a little over a year later by Axiom Mission 2, which launched aboard Dragon Freedom.
For awareness, we're cycling the orbit tank isolation valves to equalize low flow pressure.
Dragon copy.
Pausing there for that update. And I believe that may be all for that. I'll pick up where we were. So Commander Peggy Whitson led American John Schaffner and 2 Saudi Arabian national astronauts, Ali Al-Qarni and Rayana Barnawi, on a 10-day mission outside our atmosphere with over 8 days aboard the orbiting laboratory. And over the course of their 126 orbits, they conducted 26 research efforts and participated in 20 STEAM events. This became the first private mission with government-sponsored astronauts. And last year, in January of 2024, we conducted Axiom Mission 3, which saw Commander Michael Lopez Alegria once again lead a crew to the station. This was our longest flight to date at over 21 days, covering 346 orbits. The crew spent over 18 days on station and worked with 54 payloads, conducted 28 STEAM engagements. Flying once again on Dragon Freedom, this was the first all-European astronaut mission to the International Space Station. And here we are today. With Axiom Mission 4, we add a projected 14 more days of operational flight heritage and make possible an additional 60 research payloads. Each of these flights builds on the one that came before it, certainly, but it also is meant to open up access to low Earth orbit just a little bit more, providing opportunities for more nations and organizations than ever before to participate in human spaceflight. It's the fact that now 11 nations have been represented across our flights that speaks to the success of missions like these.
We visited with the crew of AX4 to get their thoughts on what our collective future in space looks like.
I believe that SpaceX and Axiom Space are serving as pathfinders for what commercial space is going to be in the future.
It is like a paradigm shift in how we used to think about space. And companies like SpaceX, Axiom Space are doing things that entire countries have done in the past.
SpaceX is a crucial partner that allows us to go to the International Space Station. In general, space is a big team sport, and that collaboration offers more and more possibilities to explore. In our case, this is the Dragon capsule and the Falcon 9 rocket. In the future, it might be different solutions.
It has been 5 years now that SpaceX have been sending humans to space. We are using SpaceX technology because we know that it's safe and reliable, and that it will bring us safely to the International Space Station, and not only going there, but also coming back.
The end goal for Axiom is to have that mission and presence in low Earth orbit that will enable scientific research, technology demonstrations, and expand what we are doing in space. These precursor missions like the Axiom 4 mission are just the tip of the iceberg for expanding in low Earth orbit and way beyond even.
Like we say, that space has space for everyone, and this is what it means. And I think that is the essence of spaceflight.
I love Peggy's comment there that this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Absolutely.
The International Space Station may not last forever, but there's a lot in the works today to enable even more research and more capabilities off-planet.
Of course. And so for Axiom Space, missions like AX4, as we've said, not only create opportunities for our customers to accomplish their goals in microgravity, but they are also invaluable in developing our teams and our systems for our own future Axiom Station.
When the time comes and the International Space Station reaches the end of its operational life.
Dragon SpaceX for awareness, we are continuing troubleshooting on the wind file upload. It has not been resolved yet. Troubleshooting is continuing.
To follow up on that comment we had earlier.
Dragon copies, continuing troubleshooting.
We are going to keep working this issue in the lead up to launch. So as I was saying, when the time comes and the International Space Station reaches the end of its operational life, SpaceX will help deorbit the orbiting lab. NASA awarded SpaceX a contract to develop the U.S. Deorbit Vehicle, or USDV, a modified Dragon designed to guide the station through a controlled reentry into the Earth's atmosphere to ensure that upon reentry, the station comes down in the intended location and does it safely.
But before that happens, there are plans in place where Axiom Space will utilize the remaining operational lifetime of the International Space Station to facilitate a transition to our own commercially owned and operated station. Selected by NASA in 2020, Axiom Space is the only commercial company to attach its privately developed modules to the International Space Station. And here's what this transitional timeline looks like at this point. Our first step will be to attach a module to the station that we call the Payload Power Thermal Module, or PPTM. This module is designed to receive any critical hardware, payloads, or tools from the ISS that the international community may want to continue to utilize. Then that will undock, detaching from the space station and rendezvous with our second module, known as Habitat Module 1. Together, these two modules can support 4 crew members and enable a host of manufacturing and research efforts in microgravity. From there, the station will continue to build out over the following years until we have built out an entire Axiom Station as you see it there, with a second habitation module, an airlock, the open windows down below, the Earth Observatory, and the Research and Manufacturing Lab. All of this, once fully assembled, allows Axiom Station to enable customers to forge their own future in low Earth orbit.
Speaking of our future in low Earth orbit, let's get a status update from John I about today's mission.
Well, Ronnie, we're just inside T-minus 53 minutes. We're continuing to count down. Obviously, the thing we're waiting to hear from over the countdown net is the troubleshooting going on with the wind upload of data to the Dragon spacecraft. We heard just a couple of minutes ago, they're still working on it. We have to have that on board before we get to essentially crew access armor track and then launch escape system armed. So we're going to continue to monitor that as we get a little bit closer. Now on the Falcon 9, good news, the chief engineer pulled the team. They don't see any issues right now. They'll be doing their final pull at T-minus 45 minutes or so to go into propellant load. Now, we talked about Dragon. They're working no other issues other than getting the wind file uploaded. The good news, weather. The weather officer T-minus 1 hour said phenomenal. So we'll take that all night long. And then finally, around the launch pad, flight danger, hazard areas are clear. Both around both pad 39A as well as tonight landing zone 1, because the first stage is coming back about 9 miles south of the launch site. So currently everything continuing to look good except for that one issue we're working on Dragon. We'll keep listening in, we'll bring an update, we'll keep our fingers crossed, but we're coming up on T-minus 51 minutes. Everything continuing to count down, hopefully to an on-time launch just less than an hour from now.
Attention Falcon launch operators. The propellant load and launch go-no-go poll is open in step 11.87 of 1.160.
And at just under an hour to go until launch, we want to welcome in all of those tuning in by way of NASA's live stream that have just joined our launch coverage of Axiom Mission 4. We're joined now by Sandra Jones with NASA Communications from Mission Control at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Thank you for joining, Sandra.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the team is prepared and ready to support today's launch. This attempt comes after NASA and Roscosmos discussed recent repair work in the transfer tunnel at the aftmost segment of the Orbital Labs Zvezda service module. And now we are all looking forward to the Axiom 4 crew being on board Space Station soon. We'll provide a full Space Station status update in a few minutes, but know we need to bring everyone up to speed on today's activities and the launch status. So for now, back to you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Sandra. We'll hear more from Mission Control in just a few minutes, but we do want to take a moment first to introduce everyone to the crew of AX4. Aside from Axiom Space Commander Peggy Whitson, each crew member represents a return to human spaceflight for their nation after more than 40 years.
And starting with our commander, today's mission is led by Peggy Whitson of the United States. There is simply not enough time to cover her entire resume, but to give you just a few highlights, Peggy has earned degrees in biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station. She has spent over 675 total days in space, during which she logged 60 hours across 10 spacewalks. She's also a two-time commander for Axiom Space, having previously served aboard AX2, and she was just inducted as a member of the 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame. So congratulations and well-deserved, Peggy.
Next is mission pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of India, whose call sign as a test pilot is Shooks. Representing the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, Shooks is also an astronaut designate of India's inaugural human spaceflight effort, Gangayaan, featuring an Indian-built rocket and spacecraft. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force Fighter Wing in 2006 and achieved the rank of Group Captain in 2024. He has over 2,000 hours of flight experience aboard a variety of aircraft.
And our third crew member is Mission Specialist Sławomir Uznański-Wiśniewski of Poland. He is representing the European Space Agency as a project astronaut, coming from the reserve class of 2022, much like Marcus Want, who served as a mission specialist on AX3. A scientist by trade, Sławomir has earned his Master of Science with honors from Łódź University of Technology in 2008. He holds a second Master of Science and a graduate engineering diploma as well. He also spent 2 years as the engineer in charge of the world-famous Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, beginning in 2018.
And rounding out this crew is mission specialist Tibor Kapu of Hungary, who represents the Hungarian to Orbit Astronaut Program, or HUNOR. He graduated from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, earning a degree in mechanical engineering, followed by a master's degree specializing in polymer technology. In 2023, Tibor emerged as one of 4 Hungarians selected from a pool of 247 candidates for the HUNOR astronaut program.
And together, they are the crew of AX4, Axiom Space's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Today's flight represents the return to spaceflight for 3 nations, but it also highlights the growing opportunities for nations and entities around the world to conduct meaningful work in low Earth orbit. And right now, as you see there, Peggy, Shooks, Sławomir, and Tibor sit inside Dragon. There are colleagues and students and space enthusiasts the world over gathering to cheer them on here at the start of their mission. And so we'd love to share just a few live streams that we're getting from launch parties in India and Poland. And here we are. First is a wonderful shot of a school in India. These are the students and teachers at the Naberam Hansre English School in Jamshedpur, India, gathering together to watch Shubhanshu lift off. How exciting.
Now we have great views from Poland. Crowds are beginning to gather here, including children from Polish schools, to witness Sławomir's launch on the planetarium's dome. The event was organized by the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, the Polish Space Agency, and the European Space Agency. I love seeing these views from around the world.
It's truly incredible. The joy, the excitement around the world.
You have a go for Section 5, and when ready, report go for launch. For awareness, we are still troubleshooting the wind upload file. I will have a few more words for you after you confirm your go for launch.
Wilco in warp, section 5. And SpaceX Dragon, we are go for launch. Section 5 is complete.
Copy, Section 5 complete. All right, for awareness on timeline, we have to have the launch escape system armed by T-minus 37 minutes. So we are going to take this as far as we can. What I'll need from you guys is a very fast turn on the commanding for launch escape arm, provided we get to that point. I'll copy.
Copy. Understand LES has to be armed by no later than T-minus 37 minutes, and we will be prepared.
Copy that.
John Itzberger back here at the webcast desk. We're inside T-minus 45 minutes. Right now, we just heard from the Dragon team. They can take it down to about T-minus 37 minutes.
This is the launch director on the countdown net. The poll is complete, and the team is ready for crew access arm retract and propellant load and launch, pending resolution of the winds upload issue. For all operators in MCC and Hangar X, both controllers are going to lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and will remain in that state until the LES system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console and maintain a sterile cockpit until the ND confirms successful disarming of the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed until the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators shall advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Okay, we're at T-minus 43 minutes, 15 seconds and counting. You've heard the SpaceX launch director giving final instructions to the team. We have cleared our propellant loading pole.
Crew access arm retraction has started.
And now we've heard, and you can see on the screen, crew access arm is pulling away from the Dragon spacecraft. This is going to take about a minute, minute and a half to retract all the way. Then we'll get confirmation it is in the launch position. The next step after that is going to be the crew, close the visors, confirm that, and then begin launch escape arming. As we mentioned, we want to get launch escape arming finished by about T-minus 37 minutes, which means we've got about 5 minutes to finish troubleshooting the wind upload to the Dragon vehicle. Now, currently on Falcon 9, all conditions are go on the launch vehicle. That was the poll that we, and the instructions we heard from the launch director. Dragon's working its one issue. Weather looks good. Range is ready to support.
Crew access arm retraction complete.
All right, that is the confirmation. The arm is back in the launch position. Next, they'll give the crew the command to go ahead and close and lock their visors. Now, I think right now we're probably waiting just a little bit longer. We want to give the Dragon team as much time as they can have before we move into the sequence where we then have the crew arm the launch escape system. Now, if we do get through this and we solve the upload issue, at T-minus 35 minutes, we will begin propellant load. Once we do that, then there's no chance to hold the clock. We would have to complete the countdown and launch on time, or as we have mentioned during the webcast, we do have another opportunity tomorrow about 24 hours from now. We're inside 41 minutes, continuing to troubleshoot the problem. View of the crew inside the capsule on the right-hand side. See the status bar on the bottom and the clock counting down. Now, if we get to go, we'll hear then the commands to begin the launch escape system arming. The crew will confirm about a minute later that they're armed. And that'd complete the major events before a propellant load would begin at T-minus 35 minutes. Views of Falcon 9 and Dragon on Launch Complex 39A on the Kennedy Space Center. Everybody is clear of the launch pad, clear of the launch complex. The danger and hazard areas have been confirmed clear, and we're ready. We're just waiting to find out whether or not we're going to be able to continue forward in the countdown. We should know that answer within the next couple of minutes. Now, if need be, if we do have to hold the countdown, that would be a scrub for the night. Right now, as we talked about earlier, the space station orbit is passing over Kennedy Space Center, getting everything aligned.
SpaceX wind upload is complete. You are go for Section 6, close visors and arm launch escape system.
Visors are closed and arming launch escape system now.
All right. That's good news. We've got the winds uploaded. Closing the visors, you can see on the screen. We're also going to begin escape system arming. It's going to take about 50 seconds once they get into it. We will then get confirmation that the launch escape system is armed. And from there, we will move into propellant loading coming up in 3 minutes at T-minus 35. So we passed a major milestone, everything looking good. And it's kind of quiet here right now. Everybody's kind of tense. We're waiting to see how we'd go, Paul. But with that, it looks like we're doing good in the timeline.
We have taken a sigh of relief, no extra breath here. Smiles are returning. Well, with that.
Launch escape system is verified armed.
Very good. With all of those call-outs and the progress now being made again towards launch, let us tell you more about their destination, the International Space Station. And with that, we'll send you to NASA's Johnson Space Center and Sandra Jones for all things tracking about the mission.
For the start of propellant load.
Thanks, Paul. I'm here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, where teams are working around the clock to monitor the Expedition 73 crew and systems aboard the orbiting laboratory. Today, this team is ensuring that the station is ready to receive Dragon and the Axiom 4 crew. Private astronaut missions are an important component of NASA's strategy for enabling a strong and competitive economy in low Earth orbit. Unique to Axiom 4, NASA is collaborating with the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, on 5 joint science investigations and 2 on-orbit STEM demonstrations, which help showcase the strength of international collaboration and the shared commitment to expanding access to space. As the International Space Station nears the end of its operational life, NASA plans to transition to a new model featuring commercial space stations to maintain its leadership in microgravity research and ensure a sustainable access to low Earth orbit for the benefit of humanity. So let's take a moment now to learn more about the International Space Station and NASA's commercial future in low Earth orbit.
For more than 25 years, NASA has used the International Space Station to advance the nation's scientific and exploration goals, completing research not possible on Earth. With international partners, the orbiting laboratory has supported more than 4,000 science investigations and served as a test bed for technology demonstrations and human research to better explore the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Through NASA's investment, the United States is operating multiple commercial cargo and crew transportation spacecraft, and now is developing fully commercial space stations for low Earth orbit. With transportation and destinations, NASA's efforts are opening opportunities for private industry to use space for new markets that could benefit from microgravity. The International Space Station is the blueprint for international partnerships and commercial opportunities in space. As NASA looks to buy services from private industry, the agency looks to the future, exploring the secrets of the universe for the benefit of all.
And you can learn more about NASA's commercial efforts at nasa.gov/commercial-space. From Mission Control Houston, we are standing by and ready to support tonight's launch. So for now, we'll send it back out to Ronnie, and Paul in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Sandra. And so things are looking good on the launch pad. The teams are continuing to progress towards launch at 2:31 a.m. Eastern. We'd love to take a minute and just take a look back at what's happened already this evening to get us to this point in the countdown. So for context, we want to say this crew has been living in an isolated quarantine bubble for the last 4 weeks, having reported to quarantine on May 25th. In that time, they have shifted their sleep regimen to adjust their circadian rhythm to match those on board the International Space Station. And over the last few days, they have finessed that further to be ready for today. In fact, their wake-up call was set to 6:30 p.m. earlier yesterday, I should say, depending on where you are. But then about 4.5 hours prior to the scheduled launch time, the Axiom Space ground operations team drove the X-4 crew to Kennedy Space Center, where they shared a brief moment with loved ones before officially being handed over to SpaceX for today's launch. This handover event has taken on quite a few forms over the years, but there's always something truly special about creating a moment, even just for a few minutes, in the midst of all of this operational choreography, to pause and share a moment with loved ones. And there you see the team did just that in front of the VAB before getting into the Teslas and riding out to the Falcon support building to be ready for launch today.
Absolutely. After that T-4 hour briefing, the SpaceX team helped the crew suit up at our Falcon support building. You got a video on your screen that was recorded earlier today of the crew stepping out in their suits and waving to everybody there for the first time before getting in our 2 Teslas to caravan over to Launch Complex 39A. They do ride in pairs over to 39A, often accompanied by members of our launch closeout team, who you see there as the crew celebrates that they are on their way over to launch. Once they reached the tower, they ascended up to the Dragon spacecraft and were able to make one last phone call before signing the White Room wall. Here you see the crew walking across the crew access arm, getting their boarding passes handed to them and checked by our closeout team. You'll notice that Peggy Whitson's is gold because she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. And then once our crew ingressed Dragon, we completed suit leak checks and comm checks before rotating the seats into the reclined position for launch. Love these videos of them up in the White Room there. You can see those signatures on the wall behind them, hugging the closeout team before ingressing the capsule. Then from there, that is the same team that closes the hatch and seals everything in the preparation for launch. Right now, we are still waiting on those final weather checks coming up, but prop load has begun. So all of that brought us through the confirmations we've been listening to, the check-ins, confirming that the crew arm is stowed, and of course, as we were listening so intently for earlier today, that our launch escape system is armed. With that, we are just over 31 minutes away from today's liftoff.
Incredible. That White Room is got a lot of history in it already.
And lots more to come, which is really exciting.
Yes, we are just adding another chapter to this storied location. That 39A has got so much history already.
So, of course, everything about today is really timelined down to the minute. As we were talking about earlier today, the crew wake up all the way through launch. We have this kind of precise choreography that is key to our launch site execution. Each of the calls we're hearing, the visual cues that we're seeing, and that we're acknowledging to you who are joining us from around the world, serve as critical synchronization.
Stage 1, cryohelium loading.
There's confirmation there that we're loading the cryohelium on board stage 1 of Falcon 9. And each of these milestones are critical synchronization points for both the ground and crew teams. As they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Dragon radically changed how humanity gets to space. After the space shuttle program ended in 2011, NASA astronauts primarily used the Russian Soyuz spacecraft for travel to the International Space Station. Until 2020, Dragon was the Russian Soyuz spacecraft was the only human-capable launch vehicle available. Meanwhile, SpaceX's Dragon was being developed, and then in 2010, it became the first commercial spacecraft to be recovered from orbit. In fact, just for fun, because it's cool to know, the Dragon that flew on that first commercial mission is actually the one hanging behind us here in front of Mission Control in Hawthorne. Since then, Dragon has supported 17 human spaceflight missions and flown 66 crew members representing 17 countries. Overall, Dragon has flown 52 missions, carrying over 1,000 experiments and over 300,000 pounds of cargo to space.
And each of those missions represents a host of firsts that have helped shape this generation of spaceflight. To fully appreciate the progress being made together with SpaceX and NASA, it's worth noting that Axiom Space's 3 missions to date have helped provide greater access for nations and researchers, setting new precedents for private astronaut efforts aboard the International Space Station. And AX4 adds to that growing flight heritage.
After a successful liftoff and orbital insertion, the AX4 crew are set to rendezvous and dock with the International Space Station tomorrow. They'll spend approximately 14 days aboard the orbiting laboratory, bringing the occupancy count up to 11.
And over the last 10 months, this crew has been working with instructors to learn every system they will be working with on station. They have studied and practiced every experiment, reviewed and rehearsed every event, all to maximize that time in space. Collectively, this crew is undertaking the largest quantity of research efforts of any Axiom space mission to date, with over 60 research activities on their timeline, representing 31 different countries. Missions like these continue to expand what is possible and set the stage for even greater opportunities to come.
Then, at the conclusion of their time on station, the crew will participate in a closing farewell ceremony and begin their preparations for the journey back to Earth. As we've mentioned a couple of times, that'll be about 14 days from today.
Each mission to the International Space Station is rooted in singular unifying purpose, to explore and learn together as a team. And that is one of the things that I absolutely love about human spaceflight. The International Space Station is a symbol of what can be realized from international cooperation and collaboration. And so while this particular mission may represent the goals of 4 specific nations, today they are launching as one crew, one team. And in that spirit, this crew created a mark to represent their shared effort together. The AX4 mission patch is something that Peggy, Shooks, Swavush, and Tibor will wear proudly for the rest of their lives. But so will thousands of people who've worked tirelessly to contribute to this mission.
The mission patch for Axiom 4 was created, as you mentioned, by the crew, not just to mark their space flight, but to symbolize the idea that space is for everyone. Anchored by the centrality of the Earth and flanked by a diverse set of national flags, there are several intended meanings woven into this design. For instance, the 7 stars represent the 7 continents and point to global inclusivity.
The 4 white lines ascending from the Earth to the International Space Station symbolize the physical journey of this mission, and together appear to make panes of a spacecraft window, much like the view the astronauts will have from Earth orbit. And the overall gem shape of the patch is a reminder of the precious responsibility we all have to our planet, to cherish and to protect our homeworld. And in addition to the mission patch, another favorite tradition of human spaceflight is the zero-G indicator. To celebrate their unique bond, the AX4 crew chose a baby swan as the zero-G indicator, which they've named Joy. And today, we have the opportunity to have our very own Joy joining us to help us keep an eye on the gravity levels here in Hawthorne. And so far, pretty stable.
Yeah, all systems nominal, I would say.
Very, very nominal. Yes.
So as we await our T-0 in a little bit more than 25 minutes, our ground operations teams are doing a final series of systems checks to make sure both Dragon and Falcon 9 are ready for launch. Let's take a look at what the Ascent portion of our mission today will look like.
Start of Stage 2 cryohelium loading.
Brief announcement on Stage 2 loading. Once we hit T0, we're going to watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent. At about 43 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. Now, it's worth noting that shortly after we hit max Q, the vehicle will go supersonic, faster than the speed of sound.
Once we're through that period of maximum dynamic pressure, we throttle up our Merlin engines again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. The first is main engine cutoff, also called MECO. This is where all 9 Merlin engines shut off in preparation for stage separation. Stage SEP is when the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event.
Now, SES-1, or second stage engine start number 1, that's where the Merlin vacuum engine lights up and propels the second stage along with our AX-4 crew and Dragon into orbit. Now, as Stage 2 heads into the targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 3 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the boost back burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines reignite and then shut down. That heads the first stage back to Cape Canaveral.
The second burn, or the entry burn, helps to slow the first stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. About 70 seconds before Dragon reaches orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land back on land near the launch site, shortly before 8 minutes into our mission.
And then a little less than a minute after that, at T plus 8 minutes, 48 seconds, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. That concludes a burn that lasts just over 6 minutes to get into orbit, but we'll wait to hear confirmation of insertion into a good orbit. Then Dragon and the second stage begin preparations to separate Dragon. About 51 seconds after we get into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with the 4-person crew drifting away in Dragon, moving away from the second stage. Once Dragon's a short distance away, it'll begin checkout of the Draco maneuvering thrusters. That'll make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
The nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes, exposing Dragon's docking mechanism in advance of arrival at the International Space Station. Speaking of which, we should hand it back now to Sandra Jones at NASA's Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas for a quick update. Sandra?
Thanks, Ronnie. The space station team here in Houston is focused on the critical systems of the International Space Station, all continuing to function as expected ahead of launch. Everything is looking good, and the station will be ready to receive Dragon and the Axiom 4 crew on Thursday. After Dragon is fully docked to the orbiting laboratory, the team here in Houston will assist the Axiom space and space station astronauts with leak checks as they work to open hatches on both Dragon and inside the station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch opening to take place approximately 2 hours after docking. Once the Axiom 4 crew arrives at the International Space Station, they will be greeted by the Expedition 73 crew, which includes NASA astronauts Nicole Ayers, Anne McClain, and Johnny Kim, as well as JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Takuya Onishi, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Kirill Peskov, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Alexei Zubritsky. Flight Director Heidi Brewer is on console right now, leading the flight controllers for launch this evening. And with Mission Control in Houston go for launch, for now, we'll send it back over to Sonia at Kennedy.
Thanks, Sandra. To dive into some of the science highlights, I'm joined now by Axiom Space's Chief Scientist, Dr. Lucy Lowe. Lucy, thanks for joining me here at the desk. With so many science portfolios that are going to be accomplished, there are more than 60 from more than 30 countries. We can't cover it all Give us a high-level look of what this portfolio looks like.
Yeah, so happy to, Sonia. So this mission is chock-a-block, jam-packed full of really interesting and exciting science. We have everything from human research, understanding how the human body reacts to space. We have some really fun life sciences experiments looking at growing plants and all kinds. We have some physical sciences. We have lots of technology demonstrations. And my favorite, lots of science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics outreach events.
All the STEAM things.
Exactly.
So we've had great success with AX1, 2, 3. Do we have any return payload flyers for AX4?
We do. We have our partners at the University of California, San Diego and the Sanford Stem Cell Institute flying their cancer cells in low Earth orbit for the 4th time with Axiom. So this team is actually looking at how the cancer cells respond to space. And on this mission, they're actually testing a newly approved drug that's just about to enter clinical trials.
Amazing.
So really exciting.
So let's take just a brief look at each of the country's portfolios. Let's start at the head.
At the top. Okay, off we go. So we're going to bring on our willing participant who is going to model, our lovely assistant who is going to model one of the experiments from this portfolio. So Israel here is wearing a functional near-infrared spectroscopy cap, which has optodes in the top, which can actually look at how blood is moving around, which is a correlate for neural activity. So it's a way to actually monitor brain activity in space. And what the team is doing is looking at these signals and how they're going to collect the data. And they're actually creating what they're calling a brain-computer interface or a brain-machine interface, which could be really interesting and useful not only for future exploration missions, but also for applications back here on Earth. So, for example, for rehabilitation after neurological disorders.
And which country's portfolio is this from?
This is from ESA and the Polish Space Agency.
Amazing. So what is ISRO doing? What's their portfolio look like?
So ISRO has a very, very busy portfolio. So Shuks is going to be doing lots and lots of research throughout the mission. So their team is going to be looking at cyanobacteria and microalgae, and they're going to be looking at how these could be used for food or for fuel or for potentially even life support systems on orbit in future. The team is also looking at muscle cells. They're seeing how muscle cells respond to access to microgravity. So when the human goes into space and there are changes, physiological changes that happen very quickly that can impact the muscle cells. And so the team is going to be looking at some of these changes to muscle cells in space and then applying that understanding not only to developing countermeasures for future crew, but also to take that learning and then understand more about diseases that might affect muscle wasting back here on Earth.
I wish that this was on so we could see if anything was lighting up with Israel. Thank you so much for helping with this. I'm going to turn this way and I'm going to get the Dyros B project. Israel, thanks for joining us here, showing off the headset there. This is fascinating. While I manipulate this, like they're going to do in space, which basically makes me an astronaut, I'm going to also hum Bach.
You should do. So this is a project from Hunor flying this research. And this is actually looking at fluid dynamics in space. So we've put this tape on for artistic purposes. Tibor will not have this disco tape on orbit. But in space, what is going to happen is this will be surrounded by a ball of water that's going to have microparticles embedded in it. And as a video is recording and he's turning the handle...
To music.
To music, exactly. The tempo at which he's turning the handle is going to increase, not too much.
Okay.
As he's listening to Bach. So he's going to know exactly how fast to turn the handle. And so the insight from research like this is going to help us understand some of the fluid dynamics around large bodies such as Saturn in our own solar system.
So it's not just for fun.
It's not just for fun. It's all very important.
If there is a researcher who's watching now and says, I've got research that I want to get into low Earth orbit, how do they do that?
They come talk to us. Go onto the website, get in touch, and we'd love to fly more research like this and do more cool science in space.
Such cool science. Thank you so much, Lucy, for making it just understandable for the general public. And we can't wait to see how it all plays out over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. And, you know, the X4 mission is very exciting, and the families and friends want to be here, but some of them couldn't. So we want to share with you now just a little taste of the friends and family who are cheering on the entire AX4 crew. Peggy, Shuks, Swa, and Tibor. A great group of teammates who are doing great things for their countries. And here are the folks who have been supporting them all along the way.
On behalf of the Axiom mission operations team, we're wishing you a safe, productive, and fun mission. Go AX4.
Papa, you are our hero. Tara api prapiante.
Cześć Sławosz, kochany synu, jesteśmy z ciebie bardzo dumni.
Kisfiam, büszkék vagyunk rád.
Várunk vissza.
Nagyon szeretünk.
Hi, Shucks. We are super excited about your visit to space. Come back triumphant. We'll all be cheering for you the whole while that you're there.
Good luck from Iowa. We love you, Aunt Peggy.
Your flight is our future. Your flight is our inspiration.
Hi Sławosz, we are about to do something truly out of this world. We are all here rooting for you.
Go chase those stars and make the mission unforgettable.
Hey Shucks! Wishing you all the strength, courage and wonder as you embark on this extraordinary mission beyond our world.
Szia, Tibike! Sok sikert kívánunk a küldetéshez, várunk haza! Nyugi, nem lesz semmi zűr, irány az űr!
Hi Swamosh, we are so proud of you. Seeing you make your dreams come true is just amazing.
Enjoy the adventure. Earth is waiting for you.
Going is go!
Going is go!
Hi Shucks, wishing you a safe and inspiring journey beyond the stars. You make us proud. The sky is no longer the limit.
We are incredibly proud of you.
Go to space.
Have fun.
Make history.
Come back safely.
We are waiting for you.
Hey Shucks, you're going to be doing just great in space. Rock on, man.
Rock on!
Go Axiom 4! Go AX4!
Greetings from India. Wishing you all the very best. To the crew, Godspeed, and spend as much time as possible to look out of the window. Have a fun time, guys.
Sonia, thank you so much. What great commentary from Lucy and all of those portfolios coming together. We're excited to see this team get to work on station. And as we know, spaceflight has a rich history of traditions. We've spoken of about a few, from the zero-G indicator to others. We started this next tradition for AX2, and we're excited to continue that today. It's a special thing to be named as a commander to anything, but being the commander of a 4-person crew that has completed months of training and is about to defy gravity and set sail for the International Space Station, it's truly out of this world. Peggy has some thoughts she wanted to share here in this moment, just a few short minutes from launch. And here's Peggy.
As commander of the AX4 mission, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to our journey. This mission to the International Space Station would not have been possible without the hard work of so many incredible teams. First, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the teams at Axiom Space. Their talent and dedication shines through every unexpected challenge, the countless hours of work, and every task at hand to ensure the safety of the crew. The team's determination and commitment to achieving the highest standards inspires me every day and reminds me why I joined the Axiom Space family. To our partners at NASA, your expertise and support have been invaluable, ensuring that we are fully prepared to live and work aboard the space station. The comprehensive training programs provided by NASA have given us the skills needed to thrive in the unique environment of space. Thank you to SpaceX for providing the cutting-edge technology and reliable transportation to take us to space and bring us back home safely. The hands-on and in-depth training have ensured that we understand the Dragon systems thoroughly and confidently. We also owe a great debt of gratitude to our international partners. Your collaboration and contributions have been essential in our training to ensure mission success. Lastly, to all the other teams involved, from engineers to scientists and everyone behind the scenes, your hard work and dedication have not gone unnoticed. You're the unsung heroes of this mission, and we are deeply grateful for your support. Thank you all for your tireless efforts and for believing in the AX-4 mission. Together, we're realizing the return for 3 nations and paving the way for a bright future in low Earth orbit. Thank you.
Awesome words from our commander there. And of course, with that, we are just under T-minus 11 minutes until our liftoff at 2:31 a.m. Eastern today from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Just in case you are just joining us, right now on your screen, you have a live view of Falcon 9 with our AX-4 crew safely tucked in the Dragon space capsule atop the vehicle. At this point, we are coming up on terminal count. Our crew access arm has been moved out of the way and our launch escape system is armed. And we are standing by for that final process by which we step into our terminal count, get ready, Dragon and Falcon for liftoff.
Dragon SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
The displays are configured for launch, and the Axiom 4 crew would like to thank the incredible teams that have made this moment possible. To the Axiom space team, you've poured your hearts into this mission. Your passion and dedication have lifted us higher. We wear this patch with pride because of you. To NASA, thank you for the decades of knowledge, the training, and the trust. You've shaped generations of explorers, and we're honored to carry that legacy forward. To SpaceX, thank you for giving us the wings to fly and the confidence for a safe return home. And to our international partners, thank you for standing with us across borders, united by shared purpose. And to every person behind the scenes, engineers, trainers, families, and friends, you are the quiet force behind this mission. We carry the hopes of many with us. As we realize the return, we will bring those hopes home to you. Thank you.
Peggy, Shooks, Suave, Tibor, from all of us that are staying here on the ground, we look forward to your mission. All the hard work from our teams culminates here, so good luck, enjoy the ride, and science the heck out of all your experiments.
Wilco.
And a Wilco from Peggy Whitson. We're coming up on the T-minus 8-minute mark. Next major event that'll be occurring on the Falcon 9 is the engine chill event. That happens at T-minus 7 minutes. We open the pre-valves, feeding both the RP1 kerosene fuel as well as the liquid oxygen. And that'll go to the Merlin 1D engines. The liquid oxygen, we actually open a valve and we allow some of it to bleed off overboard out into the warm Florida air here in the early morning. And that'll begin chilling in the turbo pumps on those 9 Merlin engines to get ready for when we ignite the engines starting at T-minus 2 seconds. Also interesting to note, just several minutes ago, as we talked about early in the webcast, the International Space Station flew over Kennedy Space Center. And so that means the orbit planes are lined up. We're ready to go in just 7.5 minutes from now. Now, while we're getting ready to open the pre-valves, which is one of those what we might call significant events in the life of the Falcon 9 as we count down, we'll also be chilling in the upper stage engine. We'll hear that call out also in flight when we do some additional chill in at about 1 minute and 52 seconds.
Engine chill has started.
There's that engine chill announcement from Mission Control right on schedule. So now we just got about 50 seconds left as we continue to load RP1 onto the first stage. Falcon 9 is powered by liquid oxygen and RP1, which stands for Rocket Propellant 1, which is a highly refined type of kerosene. By the time we reach liftoff, Falcon 9 will have approximately 1 million pounds of fuel on board and will be burning 700 gallons of fuel per second at liftoff.
Stage 1, RP1 load complete.
There's confirmation there from Mission Control that we have RP1 load complete, and you're seeing great reactions from the AX4 crew there on the right-hand side of your screen with each one of these call-outs. You can tell that they are just as excited as we are to get them on their way to space.
A lot of time rehearsing, and now we're down to the last 6 minutes. We're also seeing some of the moist air as it condenses around the cold tanks. You can see that just at the top, Dragon above the second stage. Next major event coming up, Dragon is going to configure for terminal count, and they'll move on to internal power. Those are the batteries. We do have solar arrays, and you can see them right now as some of the mist clears. You can see the black portions of Dragon. So we've got solar arrays on part of the Dragon trunk, and then we also have batteries inboard. Now we have completed loading fuel on both the first and second stage. We're still loading liquid oxygen onto both stages. That'll wrap up at the T-3 minute mark and the T-2 minute mark. But right now we're waiting to hear the final updates to the crew.
Falcon 9 propellant tanks are pressurizing for strong back retract.
That's good news for mission
Dragon
control.
is in configure for terminal count.
There we heard that we are pressurizing Falcon 9 for strong back retraction. The strong back is the tall structure standing right to the left of the rocket right now. And we pressurize Falcon 9 so that we can begin to retract that support structure away from the vehicle ahead of liftoff. Great view there of Dragon sitting
Strong back retract has started
on top of Falcon 9. And we'll look for those clamp arms around the base of Dragon just beneath those solar panels John was just talking about to begin opening up so the strong back can pull away. The strong back is used both to move Falcon 9 out to the launch pad ahead of liftoff and to provide all of the fuel and comm umbilicals that we're using in the lead up to launch. There are those clamp arms opening up. And then we'll see the strong back pull just about 2 degrees away from Falcon 9 in the final lead up to launch. Then at liftoff, it'll move to a full 45 degrees away from the rocket. Great live shots there of the capsule on board the rocket here.
Yeah, Ronnie, it takes about 20 seconds for the hydraulics to open up those clamp arms that held on to the second stage. Then about 30 seconds, it's hard to see, but that strong back will move just a couple degrees away.
And with that, we are just about 30 seconds away from the expected call out that LOX load has been completed on board our first stage. As we mentioned earlier, that mist forming around the outside of Falcon 9 is totally normal. That's just some of that.
Stage 1, LOX load complete.
Some of that liquid oxygen that has now been fully loaded on board to stage 1, venting out into the warm Florida air and condensing into clouds.
So we continue to check off events here in the last minutes of the countdown.
Dragon is in terminal count and is on internal power.
And the confirmation a minute ago, we started the move into transition. And there on the left side of the screen and the right, you can see some of the watch parties, Paul.
Yeah. Absolutely. On our left side of the screen, you can see the school in India. And then the right side of the screen is the planetarium in Poland with students and fans of this crew cheering on what's about to be a momentous moment.
They're good in the planetarium, keeping it dark in there for them. Okay, we're waiting to hear the confirmation that second stage LOX load is complete. That should be coming up momentarily.
Stage 2, LOX load complete.
There's that confirmation from Mission Control right on schedule. So the next major visual milestone we're likely to have from the outside of the spacecraft is going to be venting.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Confirmation there from Mission Control that we are in auto idle on board Dragon in that final minute and a half before launch. Now, we are expecting gas closeouts to be followed by some loud venting, and we're likely to see a larger cloud of liquid oxygen.
Gas closeout has started. Expect loud venting.
There's instructions to the crew, also right on schedule. And a great nighttime shot of Dragon sitting there at historic Launch Complex 39A with the AX-4 crew safely tucked inside with just over a minute to go until liftoff.
Seated left to right inside Dragon from this camera's perspective, you have Tibor Kapu there on the left-hand side. Then beside him is our pilot, Shubhanshu Shukla. Then to the other side
is armed. Falcon 9 is in startup and is now controlling.
Is Commander Peggy Whitson. And
Dragon
then far
countdown.
on the far side is Sławosz Uznanski-Wiśniewski of ESA.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
AX4 is go for launch.
That is great news for mission control and from our crew on board Dragon. With that, we are just at T-minus 30 seconds to lift off of AX4.
Let's go AX4.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff.
For three nations, a new chapter in space takes flight. Godspeed, AX4.
T plus 30 seconds into flight with the Axiom 4 crew on board Dragon, headed to the International Space Station. Waiting to hear callouts from the Falcon 9 engineering team.
Power and telemetry nominal. Stage 1 throttle down.
We're throttling down the 9 Merlin engines. We're into the throttle bucket, preparing for max Q.
Max Q. Vehicle is supersonic.
We should begin throttling the Merlin engines back up now.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Mission control confirming.
Stage 1 Bravo.
That throttle up, and we
Copy,
are
1 Bravo.
hearing our Commander Peggy Whitson call out the first abort mode. Each of these are a specific phase where if for any reason we had an in-flight abort,
underway.
Dragon would abort to a safe location. So we're going to call out each of those milestones as we pass through them. We also just heard the call out for MVAC chill. We're going to trickle just a little bit of liquid oxygen now into the turbo pumps on board our Merlin vacuum engine on stage 2 in preparation for second engine start 1, which will of course be shortly after stage separation. Now, at this point, we are just about 30 seconds away from 4 events that are going to happen in rapid succession. The first one will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, then again followed by stage separation, ignition of that second stage engine, which we are already
Stage
preparing for, as well as the first stage's boost back burn. With that confirmation from Mission Control that we are throttling the first stage engines down, we are expecting MECO at T plus 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. Stage 1 boost back startup and back ignition.
There we had confirmation of all 4 of those events. Incredible views on our screen here too as that boost back, as that first stage boosts its way back to Earth.
Stage 2 Alpha.
And confirmation
Copy,
from our
2 Alpha.
commander that we have entered the 2 Alpha abort mode. Of course, we're getting lots of cheers from behind us here at Mission Control here in Hawthorne, California as well. And at this point, our AX4 crew is on their way to space. The view you have on your screen right now is our MVAC engine burning for that second engine first burn. We're expecting that SECO here, second engine cutoff, which will likely be called out over the nets as SECO in just a couple of minutes.
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
Confirmation that the boost back burn on our first stage booster is now complete, and the booster is heading back toward the Florida coast to attempt a landing at LZ1. At this point, stage 1 is actually still coasting to apogee. We're about to deploy those grid fins so that we can steer the vehicle as it enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
And that call out from Mission Control means
Dragon
that
copies, nominal trajectory.
everything is right on track.
T+4 minutes, everything continuing to go well, and we've got our first view of the crew. They're inside Dragon, second stage continuing to fire. Right now, second stage, just a little bit more than 1 G. There's so much propellant that even with a 220,000-pound thrust engine, it takes a while before the G loads start to build up during the second stage flight. Meanwhile, first stage continuing to coast up to apogee, and that actually now, as you can see on the bottom left of your monitors, we have begun coming back down. It takes a couple minutes to go up, a couple minutes to come back down. That first stage heading back to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. All right.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Words we love to hear.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Peggy Whitson echoing back the call up from the ground. Now our next major event coming up will be in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. That's going to be the entry burn. That's where we're going to light a single center engine on the first stage. That's going to slow us down in preparation for entering the Earth's atmosphere again. We'll then have a landing burn about 1 minute later at T+7 minutes and 19 seconds. Now for that one, we actually light 3 engines again. Then quickly once we've kind of jammed the brakes on, then we'll turn off 2 of the engines. We'll be down to just a single engine. Getting good views of the MVAC-D engine. There are a couple of cameras on the back of the second stage that give these views. And of course, the view inside the Dragon spacecraft showing the crew.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Continuing the call-outs right on time.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Now, right now, as Ronnie pointed out, the grid fins have been deployed, but they're not being used. Right before the entry burn, we'll possibly see a little bit of motion if we can pick up the first stage camera. That's just a checkout. It's not until we actually get through the entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
That we get back in the atmosphere. And now here is entry burn call out. This is going to be about a 12-second burn. That's going to slow the vehicle down. You can
Stage
watch
1
that.
entry burn shutdown.
There you just saw on the left-hand side of your screen that first stage entry burn shutdown. Right now on your screen, we've got great views of our second stage engine, the Merlin vacuum engine, continuing to take our AX-4 crew to orbit. The next milestone for our first stage is going to be the landing burn, where we'll relight just the center engine, as John mentioned.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Again, things we love to hear.
Stage 1 FTS.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Continuing to get good communication from our crew on board Dragon.
Stage 1 transonic.
Confirmation that stage 1 is now transonic on its way back to LZ1, which is just about 9 miles away from our liftoff location today. LZ1, of course, is the site of the first successful landing attempt, and hopefully it will be the second time that this particular booster sticks its landing. Seeing those actuating of the grid fins that John mentioned.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 2 FTSS safed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
That was a picture-perfect landing. That was great.
Absolutely stunning.
So coming up next for our crew, now that we've confirmed that booster touchdown, is going to be second engine cutoff, also called out as SECO. Then the second stage will coast for a few minutes until Dragon is commanded to separate from the second stage. There's our AX-4 crew awaiting that SECO call out here.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Good continued burn from our second stage engine there. Now at this point, our crew is experiencing about 3 Gs in the lead up to SECO 1, which of course will be their first taste of microgravity.
SpaceX Dragon, Shannon.
There's confirmation
Copy, Shannon.
of the Shannon abort mode.
MVAC shutdown.
SpaceX Dragon, we have a nominal orbit insertion.
Nominal orbital insertion, SpaceX, and we had an incredible ride uphill, and now we set our course for the International Space Station aboard the newest member of the Dragon fleet, our spacecraft named Grace. Grace is more than a name. It reflects the elegance with which we move through space against the backdrop of Earth. It speaks to the refinement of our mission, the harmony of science and spirit, and the unmerited favor we carry with humility. Grace reminds us that spaceflight is not just a feat of engineering, but an act of goodwill. The benefit of every human, everywhere. Over to you, Chip.
Launch escape system disarmed.
10 minutes into flight.
Water ride. नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, वाटर राइड 40 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना गर्व से चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत के इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Thank you, Chuck. Drogie Polki i Polacy, dziś robimy ogromny krok w stronę przyszłości technologicznej Polski. Polski opartej na nauce, wiedzy i wizji. Niech ta misja będzie początkiem epoki, w której nasza odwaga i nieustępliwość kształtują nowoczesną Polskę. Dla nas i dla przyszłych pokoleń. Kosmos zawsze jednoczył ludzi. Zabieram dziś z ziemi cząstkę każdego z was. Waszej siły, waszej nadziei, waszego zaufania. W kosmosie nie jestem sam. Reprezentuję nas wszystkich. Z całego serca dziękuję wam za zaufanie. Kosmos dla wszystkich. Space for everyone. And with that, over to you, Thibault.
Thank you, Sław. 15 millió magyar emelt ma idáig. Támogatásotok olyan, mint a szürke hamu alatt nyugvó parázs. Belül csendben ízik, de ha fát dobnak rá, egyként lángol. Hálás és büszke vagyok, hogy a hazánkat képviseltem. Családomnak és barátaimnak köszönöm, hogy ti vagytok a legerősebb támaszaim. A ti hangotok hangosabb, mint a rakétánk, erőtök nagyobb, mint a gravitáció. A világűr mindenkié, a Föld pedig egyetlen. Mi a bolygónk 4 különböző pontjáról indultunk, de társakként, barátokként érkeztünk ide. A mi küldetésünk a tiétek is. Köszönöm mindenkinek szerte a világon, akik hozzájárultak ez a gyönyörű naphoz. Egynek minden nehéz, soknak semmi sem lehetetlen. Go X4!
And we are getting some views inside of the newly named capsule that the crew announced today.
On behalf of the entire SpaceX launch team, thank you. It's been a privilege to work with you so far, and we're excited for you to have a safe flight and a safe return home. Good things come to those who wait. Godspeed to the maiden crew of Grace.
And we thank you all as well.
And so with today's successful launch of Axiom 4, the teams at NASA's Johnson Space Center will continue to monitor Dragon's flight to the International Space Station over the next 28.5 hours. NASA's role in this journey really kicks in at a period called integrated operations, which begins during the spacecraft's approach to the space station and continues during the crew's stay aboard the orbiting laboratory, where they will conduct science, education, and commercial activities, and will conclude once the spacecraft exits the vicinity of the International Space Station. During integrated operations, the NASA, SpaceX, and Axiom space teams are all working in lockstep. The teams here are preparing for a docking of Axiom 4 to the space station at 7 a.m. Eastern on Thursday morning, and will continue to monitor the approach until then. But for now, that will be it for us here in Mission Control Houston, but we'll be back with you at 5 a.m. Eastern for docking, hatch opening, and welcome coverage. So with that, back over to you, Hawthorne.
Thanks so much, Sandra. Over the next 28.5 hours, the Dragon spacecraft Grace will execute a series of burns to gradually raise and line up the AX-4 crew for docking with the International Space Station in what we refer to as the activation and rendezvous phase of flight. In just a few minutes, the crew will change out of their spacesuits to get a little bit more comfortable for flight and will enjoy their first meal aboard the spacecraft. Over the course of their flight, they will also have a rest period that will last for about 8 hours. Before they arrive at the space station, we will have 3 potential opportunities to chat briefly with the crew on orbit. While we're hopeful that one of these will work out, none of them are guaranteed, as they're dependent both on crew schedule and ground station coverage. But if we are able to support, we'll make an announcement on our social media channels no later than 15 minutes before the event start time. In the meantime, be sure to keep tabs on this mission at axiomspace.com, and you can track Dragon's flight on spacex.com/launches.
And even if we aren't able to talk live with the crew, we will continue to provide updates on the mission across our social media channels. And then as Dragon and the AX-4 crew approach the International Space Station tomorrow, June 26th, we will pick back up with our live joint coverage of the AX-4 crew's docking to the station with NASA. Please keep an eye on Axiom Space and SpaceX social channels for updates, as there will be plenty of incredible moments to share with you over the next 2 weeks. From all of us at Axiom Space, thank you, SpaceX. Thank you, NASA, for making today possible. Thank you to ISRO and ESA and Hunor for pursuing this endeavor with us. What started with joy now continues on with grace. And we will see you very soon.